Good evening, everybody. It's Father John Kane here. I'm here to answer these questions that you have asked for my little Lectio Divina that I did last Tuesday evening. The first question is submitted on YouTube, and it is a question asking about the word the way, right? The way, of course, is a Greek word. It's hodos, at least the way we want to deal with it. But the question was this. Is the word used the same way, right? In all three times it is used in our gospel reading for this coming weekend. It's used three times. So the first time is Jesus says, "Where I am going, you know the way." The second time is the disciples say, "Jesus, we don't know where you're going." So Thomas says this, "We don't know where you're going. How do we know the way?" And Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," right? So it's used three times. Interestingly, if I pull out my Greek New Testament, as you can see here, it's all Greek New Testament that we used in seminary for my studies. Very helpful. The word used in the Gospel of John in that passage, right, as I said before, is hodos. For all three times it is used, hodos. Hodos translates to street, road, journey, kind of path that you would take, right? Sometimes we think to ourselves, a lot of these words, if Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," he's talking about some sort of existential, intellectual idea of the way, right? Jesus is the way. But it's not so mysterious. It is a very simple word, basically pointing us to an interesting fact. The fact that Jesus and his disciples literally walked along streets with dirt and dust and rocks and such things, right? They literally followed paths. They literally would have had to follow maps to get where they're going, right? And when Jesus tells them that where he is going, they know the way, they get confused because they're thinking to themselves, what town are you going to? We don't know the way to that town or wherever you're going. It's like us saying, how do I get to the bank, right? I don't know the way to the bank. I need you to show me a map. And Jesus says, so they say, how do we know if we don't know the way? And Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. You see, he amps it up. He takes a simple word like hodos, which means that the street, the road, the journey, the path. He says, I am the street, the road, the journey, the path. Interesting that he uses the same word for that to talk about an existential thing, right? The way is the path that we follow in our hearts. Well, it's interesting because the path that we follow in our hearts even supersedes the best path to the bank or the best path to this or that town, the best possible route we can go to become successful, maybe entrepreneurs or successful family leaders or successful this or that. The way of Christ supersedes all of that and should be happening as we are following our physical ways on earth. So there's, I think, my answer to the first question. The second question was submitted by a family member of mine, and it was this. They asked whether the words, and let me pull this up I have this on my computer right now because I'm using my computer for the video that I'm making. The question was, why does Philip say to Jesus, "Master, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us"? Like, why is he saying that? What doesn't he get? And Jesus says, have I been with you for so long a time, and you still don't know me, Philip? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. You see, Jesus has just said before Philip asked the question, he said, if you know me, then you will also know the Father, right? You have seen me, you have also seen the Father. Philip says, show us the Father, and that will be enough. And Jesus says, what don't you get? The point being that Jesus is in the Father, and the Father is in Jesus. They are one together, and one in being, as our creed says, right? And so this is something that the apostles still don't get. They're still not quite understanding. They're used to the idea of God kind of being up in heaven and being one, right? They're used to the idea of God sending the Spirit, right, to dwell in the temple. But this whole idea of Jesus actually being the Son of God and being one in the Father and the Father being one in him is something that is still not getting quite clear to them. And so that's why Philip asked that. Show us the Father, and that will be enough for us. And Jesus says, if you see me, you see the Father. That's all. I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. Right? I don't need to show you the Father. I am showing you the Father. It is me. That's what Jesus says. Okay. Well, that's the second question. The third question is one I came up with myself. And that is at the very end. And I mean, some people have already asked me this. They say, when Jesus says, "Amen, amen, I say to you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I do, and will do greater ones than these, because I am going to the Father." What does it mean when he says they will do greater works than these? As if there's works greater than Jesus' works. That doesn't make any sense. But the thing is that the works they see in Jesus, right, are done by Jesus himself. And, they are believable because Jesus, of course, is one with the Father. He is in the Father and the Father is in him, right? They're very palpable. Now imagine the works of the Father being done for those who are not Jesus. You and me, right? We're not Jesus. Now we have Jesus in us, but we are individual persons, right? Imagine the works of the Father being done in us as Christians and being done before the world as Christians. Well, then that will be even more magnificent, won't it? That the works of the Father can be done through sinners. Jesus wasn't a sinner, right? This shows the power of God, that he doesn't just do works only like in Jesus and through Jesus, but Jesus in us, he does works in and through us as Christians. And that's why it says the word greater, right? It's because it'll be more grand, because it'll be incredible. This is how much the Father loves us. This is how much the Father has power to guide his people. Okay, so these are the three questions that I think are really good. Hopefully you guys can glean something from them, and I hope that we look forward to hearing the bishop's homily on Sunday at 10 o'clock in English, and Father Pedro's Sunday on homily at the 8:30 Mass in Spanish. So God bless to all of you, and we really look forward to seeing all of you soon. All right, thanks God. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.